Hey there, Wastelanders, it's Brother Mike, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to be going over episode 3 of season 2 of The Fallout Show. And before we get into it today, there will be spoilers, of course. We are going to be going over the whole episode and some theories, so here's your warning now, there will be spoilers ahead. Now, this episode starts with our favorite squire, Thaddeus, and it seems he's taken over or is working at a Sunset Sarsaparilla factory. Now, at first, I thought that he was maybe forging caps, but it seems that they're actually making Sunset Sarsaparilla, which means we finally know who's been refilling all those vending machines this whole time. And we also get a look at some more ghoul children. We've only ever seen one before, and that was in Fallout 4, Billy, the kid in the fridge. And they seem to be working for him, and he also has normal kids there. He seems to still think that he's a ghoul, yet he doesn't seem to look like the other ghouls, so I'm excited to see where that goes. This also opens up a question of, is someone like paying them to make more sarsaparilla to distribute, or is this just Thaddeus trying to find his own purpose out in the wasteland? I don't know. Because, I mean, if those bottle caps and those bottles looked new, so who knows? Maybe our boy Thaddeus is, is making some counterfeit caps. Who knows? Maybe we really didn't destroy that press after all. And then we finally get to see Lucy's fate with the Legion. It shows them going into the Legion camp, and she has what we thought in the last episode was a Legion slave, and hence why we think Cooper Howard killed that man there. And they ask the slave, "Where's your legionary?" And she can't show for him, and they kill her on the spot, really showing us how brutal the Legion is, and they're not taking any steps back. Now, we were a little bit worried that because of the way the Legion is and how they treat women, that we weren't going to see the best for Lucy. She gets a audience with the current Caesar, and we get a big lore dump from a Macaulay Culkin's Legate, where after the events of New Vegas, Caesar dies and new people try and take up the mantle. Now, there was a great fracture within the Legion, as we see the Legion camp is not one, but it's two separate camps with their own Caesars. So there's even infighting happening within the Legion. And I like to see this. It's very cool seeing how even the Legion, with how their mentality is, they can even differ. And we learn that Caesar, who is still the Caesar from New Vegas, is on the embankment between each camp, and he has a note in his pocket for who the next true Caesar could be. And it seems that they don't want anyone to find out, and they want to be their own Caesar. So I'm very excited to see where this goes, especially with what happens at the end of the episode. The Legion seems shocked when Lucy starts talking back to them and telling them how some of the ways they follow are just not anything the Legion has ever done. She also drops that she is a virgin. She's not a virgin. Lucy also gives the Legion a bit of a history lesson on how they aren't even really following the right Legion and adopting ways that weren't even related to the Legion, which I like to see. I like to see her calling the Legion out on some of their BS. They also say that they're gonna kind of set her up to be breeded, we'll say. And she goes, "Hey, I've done stuff with my cousins and stuff," and the Legion is all in shock. We hear audible gasps from her comment, and even Macaulay Culkin is a bit disturbed by what he hears. While Lucy is tied up to the crucifix, her and Macaulay's Legate, I haven't gotten a name. I've watched it a few times. I could not find a name yet, so I'll just be calling him Macaulay Legate from now on. Lucy says, "Oh, I've watched a lot of movies. I've watched upwards to 15 movies, and if you think everyone else is the bad guy, that's a good chance you're the bad guy." And the Legate responds with a amazing quote, which is, "Goodness is not a vector out here in the wasteland," or something along the lines of that, showing that, yeah, they know that their way may not be the best, but it gets stuff done in its order. And I like seeing that the Legion, or even their own members, kind of know that they're not the goodest of guys, but that doesn't matter in the terms of the wasteland. And I love that they're showing that side and that they're aware of it now too, because before it seemed, at least in Vegas, that they were righteous. Now, talking with Kaisar in the game, you see that he twists his ways in the words of the books he's read and such, but they're painting a Legion perfectly. And I'm not a Legion stan. I don't really like the Legion much. I'm a House day one. I love House, of course, from all my other videos before. But yeah, they've got the Legion spot on. Perfect. And it cuts back to the ghoul still in the hospital suffering from the rad scorpion sting. He's talking with Dogmeat. He finally rips his leg open and pulls the stinger out. Very cool. We're actually seeing the stingers in there. I like seeing how affected they are, because we know in the games those rat scorpions are annoying, especially at low levels. It's like 3-shot. So very pleased with that scene. We see he gets up and he goes to go and find the NCR, someone who can help. Before the ghoul leaves, we get a flashback back to him and his wife at their house, where she is packing a keepsake bag for her daughter having a breakdown. And I like that they're showing more humanity to her. She's still a human at the end of the day, and imagine having to pack your keepsakes for your daughter for the end of the world, which you know is coming. I mean, I can't even. And Cooper has to sit there and act like it's normal the whole time, knowing what he knows. And then it shows that he's going to a veterans kind of meeting for Battle of Anchorage. And after Cooper talks with his wife, he says he has a thing to go for with Charlie, which is the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. A bit of a meeting where now, when Cooper gets to this veterans meeting, he talks with Charlie about Mr. House, where he finds out that he's learned stuff through old blueprints and phone books. So it seems Mr. House wasn't that careful about hiding it. But would he really need to be? What are they going to really be able to do to him? But so the veterans meeting starts. A congresswoman comes up on stage. I don't think we've really heard her name before. I was trying to look it up and I couldn't find much. But it seems she was not really favored. She wasn't backed by any big corporations or anything. And she makes that known. She also sounds like she does not want to be there at all. And so Cooper gets a little bored and he goes to the bathroom, where we see Mr. House waiting for him in the bathroom. Not Anthony House, Mr. House. And I think this scene even further proves that it is not Anthony House. Check out my video too about why it's not Anthony House. I did a full video going a deep dive into the Anthony House character. And in the bathroom, House asks if he's getting any awards, and then drops that he knows he's there for Charlie, trying to send hints that he knows about Cooper Howard. And Cooper has no idea that this is House. He thinks it's just some random fellow in the bathroom, and their conversation escalates. We see Mr. House kind of pressing the buttons at Cooper, saying, oh, he's a bit of a commie. I think he calls him a pinko, if I may be mishearing it. So we see that he's testing the buttons with Cooper, and I like this. We know the type of man House is. We know he came there already knowing what he had intent to do. And we get a bit of a eerie statement from House. If you back one man in a corner, he'll do anything to get out. If you back billions in a corner, tisk. What could this mean? Is he already trying to hint towards Cooper? Hey, yo, I know what you're up to, and stop messing with me, bro. I got stuff on planet. I don't know. I just taking the glasses off for this. I love the way they're setting up House. The first episode, I was a little scared with that fight scene. That was a little bit out of unnecessary risk, but I mean, maybe House knew from probability math or whatever that he would get out of that situation. But he is pushing Cooper's buttons and kind of starting to push his opinions in certain ways for their eventual meetup, or at least that's how I see it. He goes on to say, everyone trying to solve the same problem at the same time with a multitude of solutions. Wow, doesn't that quote sound just like what Maximus says in the first season? That everyone, or no, it's the ghoul actually, that everyone believes that they're the right faction and they have a way to save the world, but they don't agree on how to do it. And I think that this quote encapsulates Fallout, the entire Fallout series as a whole. Factions all fighting over who gets to be on top of the wasteland because they think that their way is the right way. And it is just the theme of Fallout, and in my opinion, that war never changes, and that this is a reason that war never changes, is because no one can ever agree. Everyone has their own ideology that they want to stand by, and that will forever clash. Hence why we have so many Fallout games. And then their conversation concludes with Cooper asking if he was a vet, and the man says, "No, how'd you know?" And he says, "Well, a vet would know you don't talk politics with a guy with his schlong in his hand." I think that's just a funny quote. I wanted to throw that in there, but I also think Cooper's starting to realize that people are onto him. This isn't just a one-off weird encounter with a guy in the bathroom. He was hinting at something, hinting that he knows Cooper's up to something and that he has his way that he wants to save the world, and that's not the same as other people's like his. And as Cooper is walking away, House says, "Till next time, Mr. Howard," meaning he knows that their eventual meetup is going to happen, and I bet he already has everything planned out on what he wants to say. We know that he knows he wants to kill him just by the trailers. "I know you're here to kill me. I know everything." And yeah, I'm very excited for that eventual meetup. I love that they're building up to it. I hope it isn't like something they drop in the final episode. I hope it's something we get to see soon, because I really want to see that scene. I think anyone who's a fan of Vegas, even if they're not a fan of House, just want to see the inside of the Lucky 38 and them talking in it. It's just... I'm giddy about it, and I hope we get to see it soon. Maybe next episode. I have a feeling not, just by the way the pacing is going. But yeah, I'm very excited for that eventual meetup, and I'm wondering if Mr. House is going to surprise Cooper anywhere else. I mean, he was there waiting in the bathroom for him, so he's known that this was going to happen for who knows how long it was that he predicted that this was going to happen. And we also get a bit of a look into the cold fusion and how House wants that cold fusion, but he doesn't get it, which ties into how House's nuclear reactor wasn't strong enough when the bombs dropped, and which is why he had to put himself in the cryosleep for all those years. And there's also a misconception here. I know I'm adding this in out of the blue. Mr. House was not in the pod when the bombs dropped. He was outside of his hibernation pod, making sure he was physically disarming and also destroying the bombs dropping. So I like that they're tying that in why because that's one thing that I always thought. This comes up earlier in the episode, but I'm just putting it in here because it's the best spot too. That because he didn't have cold fusion, he wasn't fully able to use the Lucky 38 to its full capabilities. Also, of course, without the platinum chip, but hence why like the reactor was melting down. And I think that's something that they may hint at. And I like that they used a little piece of lore like that, because obviously I think that's where it's going to tie in. Of course, House would want infinite power at the Lucky 38 instead of this nuclear reactor that goes unstable once the bombs drop, leading him to put himself in hibernation. So yeah, I'm excited where they go with that. Sorry about that little tangent. I just wanted to add that in because when they bring it up earlier in the later in the episode, it's kind of in the middle somewhere. So yeah. Now it cuts back to the Brotherhood at Area 51, where the Grand Canyon Elder is saying how she doesn't want any part of this if the Commonwealth knows, showing that the Commonwealth really does kind of have this pull in almost seniority-like or seniority complex over the other chapters, which I like. That's something that I've been saying. I think that Elder Maxon thinks that his brotherhood is the true brotherhood, and that this potential civil war could be a moment for him to take the brotherhood for under his control, because it's clear that all these different chapters don't really work out. They always alter. They always change their identity. They always take the codex into their interpretation. And I like seeing that. But there's something even bigger, and it is this map. Now, I spent way too long looking at this map. So it is a map of, at the top, I'm going to do a full probably video into this map because it shows the locations of people. So it shows a big outline with Caesar's Legion in the middle, so that may be where they're at in Ohio, meaning Caesar's Legion may be there, not full power, but still there. It shows them near the Hoover Dam. It also shows more Brotherhood locations, and then some airship symbols pointing in, and then there's Vegas. This map is going to have a lot of lore for us. I already know people are going to be all over it. I saw it, and I started freaking out. I was zooming in, and the one thing I could see was Hoover Dam, Area 51, and then there's some stuff near where the strip is, but this map is going to be very cool to dissect, and maybe at the end of the video, if I have time, I will, but I have a feeling that's going to be my whole video tomorrow, because this map gives us a lot of lore about the general region and what's happening in that region, and I love that they gave it to us. Hopefully, this isn't another chalkboard incident like in last season, but I don't think it is. It seems very bare bones. It seems like stuff that we kind of already know, and I like that they're giving us positions at where they're at, because it's very clear that the Legion are not at Fortification Hill anymore, and that they're somewhere a little bit more back, which is shown, and we're kind of shown that we're kind of on the outer edge, upper edge of the Mojave. So they're kind of giving us a location of where it's at, which I like. This isn't a place we have not seen, so it's not like we're retconning anything, and it's in the same vicinity as where Vault 24 was. So I'm happy that they're kind of showing, hey guys, here's where the stuff is. We're not messing with anything too big right now, so I'm very, very, very happy about that. And from this, Elder Quintus goes in a speech about Elder Maxon, the first Maxon, and how he defected. And it seems that he's pushing a little bit of his own narrative on it with the religious aspect. And even the elder of the Grand Canyon chapter even says, we're not with all that religious stuff, kind of showing that these guys are really into that religious-like calling of the Brotherhood of Steel, which has been shown in the past season with all the clerics they have, and even someone later on in the episodes makes note at, dude, why do you have so many clerics around here? There's way too many of them. But yeah, he gives a bit of a history lesson on where the Brotherhood started, which is, I think, a good time to do it. And I think it shows him on his manipulation, because we know he does not really believe in that stuff. He's just using it to try and keep them there. And at the end of his, little lore dump about, Elder Maxon or the first Maxon, finding the FEV at Mariposa and then defecting, and then that's what led to the creation of the Brotherhood just a week or whatever before the bombs dropped. And yeah, I like that he's using that. And after she walks out saying, we're not going to have any part of this, we're not messing with the Brotherhood, kind of showing that the Brotherhood and the Commonwealth is powerful. Kind of hinting that I don't think they'd be this powerful if they didn't destroy the Institute. So, yeah, looks like they're confirming another ending, possibly. But, then Maximus gives his opinion on stuff. He says, why don't I just kill this envoy from the Commonwealth? And this is where we see Quintus's true colors. And this is where I think we see Maximus's breaking point in a way. He calls Maximus a dull sword. oh, why should the dull sword give his input? Why would you? If he dies, then you do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? That means that the Commonwealth is going to come after us and the Civil War will spark, and that's the last thing he wants. I think what Quintus wants is these chapters on his side, so that if the Commonwealth come, they go, oh, we're a little bit outnumbered. I don't think Liberty Prime and all of our probably for like scavenged Institute gear can take on all of this, because I fully believe that they would take Institute technology for themselves, especially Elder Maxons in the Commonwealth. Um, and then he sends Maximus out on his way, and Maximus, you can see in his face, Maximus is done. He doesn't believe in this chapter, and he's pretty ticked off, and he storms out, and that's where we come across Paladin Harkness again, where he makes the very obvious realization: why do you have so many clerics around? And Maximus says, oh, I shouldn't be talking to you, chain of command and whatnot. He says, screw that. He says, why don't you come with me and we talk about this? Because I think he knows that Maximus is his best option at, is his best option at getting to Quintus without, starting this war. Obviously, he wants to de-escalate it. And so they go on a vertibird ride, I guess, to kind of get to know each other. And Maximus gets to see this almost different side of the Brotherhood, the side of the Brotherhood that he believes in. And we see hope, we see joy. He's astonished that he has an extra suit of power armor in the vertibird that he can just use. And he says, they're flying around. He goes, oh, I got an energy reading from this place. Let's go find it out. That's what we do. We keep the wasteland safe, which is a little bit weird. Now, I do know that, especially with the missions in Fallout 4 where you take supplies from people, that they kind of push that narrative, but it's kind of clear that they don't believe in, keeping the wasteland safe. It's, oh, this technology. There's a big burst of technology at this place. Let's go check it out. And so they fly over there, and we get our first look at a working Securitron, fully working Securitron, and it is in Mark II. Now, there is the error mode that pops up on the screen, but is in his Mark II form, the military form, and even uses some of the weapons. He uses the 9mm submachine gun, but we also see him use a launcher when they inevitably fight it. Now, it's protecting something, we don't know what, and they take it over. Now, the one thing I'll say is I don't know how they were able to hack it, but it seems that it may be outside of the system or whatever at this factory or whatever it is, and we get to see a super sledge used in person, and they fight the robot with the super sledge, and Maximus punches through the screen and pulls out a fusion core. Now, I'm not sure if fusion cores are in the middle of them. We never find them on them, but we also don't have access to fusion cores like that in Fallout New Vegas. It's not like you have to use them for power armor or something like that. So, who knows? It would make sense that they're in there. I mean, it's the same tech, so makes fully sense. Kind of cool to see that. I don't know if people get angry at that just by the convenience of where it is, but I like seeing that. And then they walk into a very familiar place. It is the Sunset Sarsaparilla factory that Thaddeus was in, and he sees some feet, and a ghoul child comes out, and we see Harkness's demeanor change. He asks the children to split up into two lines, smooth skins and then wrinkly skins, and it's very clear that he is going to kill these people. And these kids, ghoul children, he's going to kill because they're little abominations. Oof, this really is the Commonwealth that we're looking at, because, yeah, that's something they say a lot. Get rid of the abominations. So I like that they're keeping that theme, and they're not straying or changing anything with the Commonwealth and their specific ideology and their, by the code or by the codex. And Thaddeus pops out to try and save them and talk down the situation. Come on, guys, come on. And it's very clear that Thaddeus is not a ghoul like the rest of them. He still has his nose. Now, maybe that eventually falls off, but I don't know. He's looking different. His face is looking different and everything. So, yeah. and he's about to kill Thaddeus. And Maximus is like freaking out because he's like, Thaddeus? What is Thaddeus doing out here at a freaking Sunset Sarsaparilla camp? And he has the sledge in his hand, and he takes it and he kills Harkness. Now, this is going to be... He killed the envoy for the Commonwealth, and he literally says to Thaddeus, I think I just started a civil war. He opens his faceplate and he talks with Thaddeus. Thaddeus is ecstatic to see him and the predicament that they're in, and I'm very happy to see where this goes. It leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger, but at the end of the episode, it's very apparent that Thaddeus tries to take over and act as Paladin Harkness or Knight Harkness. I can't remember. And then he's like walking around in his power armor, talking to himself, like freaking out because he knows if he gets discovered, he'll get killed. So that means we know who is in the power armor, and some people were correct about who's running away with Maximus. It's Thaddeus. Thaddeus comes back and is with Maximus. So I wonder what happens to the plant. I wonder if they're still making Sunset Sarsaparilla there, but it's very clear, at least by the end of the episode, just in like the teaser for the next episode, that Maximus is going to bring Thaddeus back to act like Harkness. And this is a big thing. We thought that Harkness was like all this and that, and we saw that switch, and honestly, fully justified. Maximus was fully justified, and I love that they're painting that Maximus isn't going to kill kids just because they're ghouls. That's insane. And it's pushing him more towards this, what am I in? What am I doing here in the Brotherhood? And I love seeing that. I love seeing this build up to the eventual him leaving, because we know he's probably going to leave because he's sporting that sick NCR like Ranger power armor. Now, I did connect the last two scenes. They do not happen back to back. In between that, we see the ghoul approach the Legion camp. Legion scouting out the place, and he finds Lucy there. He also sees the two Caesars and goes, oh my gosh, these guys are infighting too? I'm going to need some help with this. And so he goes to a very familiar place. And a lot of you guys were right. I thought this next scene was inside of Doc Mitchell's house, but no, not at all. We get to see Camp Golf. Yes, and it looks beautiful. We see golf balls still laying on the green, and the ghoul makes his way into the building where it's empty. But we see an inactive Securitron. And who flickers on the screen? But our good old friend, Victor. Yes, and he tells the ghoul that not many people have been around here too much, and what are you doing down here? And he seems to know Cooper. He remembers him from before the war. And he says, oh, Mr. House ain't around, but we know that if... we know that if he is around, that means House is around. Further proving that he's there. I mean, we know House is still in the Lucky 38 from the trailer. But yeah, I love seeing Victor. And who knows, was Victor made after Cooper Howard's character in a way? I know that's been a theory thrown around, but we get to get a little bit of a expedition dump from Victor where he says, oh yeah, there isn't much NCR here. There's just the Rangers up in the hills still. And that there really isn't much around here, and that, you know, I'm malfunctioning a little bit, because I have a feeling that Mr. House shut the doors to his Lucky 38 and has all of his Securitrons in there waiting after the Battle of New Vegas. Check out my theory video yesterday for that theory. In this conversation, it's clear that Cooper Howard knows who Victor is, especially by his voice. He makes a funny joke that, yeah, he's a little beat up. He thought he was a soda machine for the past 10 years, but the NCR really ain't around here anymore, and they're still fighting with the Legion. They're still going at it, which is funny that they still have this vendetta against each other and have been fighting each other. And he also seems to know that the Legion is fighting the Legion. And you can see Cooper Howard knows that this robot is bluffing. I think he knows exactly that this robot is just, you know, kind of a pawn for House. I mean, he digs us up. He follows us all the way there to the strip, and then he lets us in. So it's very apparent that Mr. House controls Victor. It's a whole thing I've talked about in the past. He's a very clear connection. If House is gone in any way or killed, Victor disappears from the game entirely. So that means House is still around, obviously. But he also says, here in Vegas, everyone's a winner. Everyone thinks they're a winner, which I think is pushing this narrative that they don't want to confirm an ending, but they kind of are confirming an ending. But I think with the trailers and some interviews, they say, oh, everyone thinks that they won, and I think they're going to be pushing this more, and I hope they don't do it the wrong way. What we've seen so far is not bad, and I'm not too worried yet. I'm just worried about when they get to like Yes Man and Mr. House and the independent stuff and what happened at Hoover Dam. But in the Sunset Sarsaparilla place, we see a Mark II Securitron, which means Mr. House got the platinum chip and the Lucky 38, and his army is upgraded. So that has to mean that the House ending is the true ending. But to be honest, the game puts it in our face the entire time. The House always wins, and we're seeing that. But we're not really seeing that into full effect. But I kind of agree with that, because I've always felt that the endings to Fallout New Vegas would never really stick. If Mr. House pushes the NCR out, they're going to come back to try and take the strip, and that's kind of shown in that end credit of Season 1 finale. And with the Legion, yes, Caesar died, but there's still that ideology there, and people would want the power of Caesar, and we see that split between the Legion. And so I'm liking where this is going, and it's starting to make sense, and I'm liking where they're going with it. And it's starting to seem like the best possible outcome. Because if they would have just stuck with one, that Mr. House took over and the strip was still there, it completely just kind of shoves to the side that there's these two huge armies at play too. Even if they're less now, we know that there's still these two big factions, and that they're still going to be there even if House pushes them out of the dam. And I have a lot of hope for where this is going. Now, Cooper asks Victor, where is House? And Victor totally brushes off the subject and gives, oh, well, Mr. House, he's gone now. And he just gives us totally wrong information, and the ghoul sees right through it. He says, now you know better. I know it with all of his planning and stuff, that he's still alive. So it seems that Mr. House is trying to make it seem like he isn't around, which I like. He's planning something, and I can't wait to see what that is. And then Victor starts to get a little bit eerie. Now, earlier in the video, I talked about them talking about how House needed cold fusion, and he's trying to play it that, oh yeah, House needed cold fusion to, survive. Yeah. And he's like, but you had something to do that, right? You had something to do with that, right? Like, hey, buddy, I'm still around. He's hinting at it. And I love these little pokes and jabs, because it's so Mr. House to be weirdly ominous, but make it known that, hey, yo, I'm still around. And so the ghoul goes to see the Rangers, and he's not met with the most nice welcome, but he does meet them, and it's shown that there is only 2 Rangers left. There's been 2 Rangers fighting the Legion for a while, and they won't send reinforcements, and the NCR doesn't even know they're out there. And they ask for his help, but, the ghoul, he's not going to really help people, or so we think. And he says he can't really help them. They give him some drugs, and he goes on his way to, take care of the Legion, I guess, by himself in the best way that he can. And they talk about how they haven't gotten reinforcements for 10 years, and that is rough. They've been fighting the Legion for 10 years out there. Oh my. And we see the ghoul walking through the Legion's camp to an audience with Caesar, where he says he wants information, but he wants something in return. And of course they say, oh, why don't we just strap you up and crucify you till you give us the answers? And then he drops that he knows where the NCR is. Now, this is kind of pretty evil, that he's about to go snitch on where these guys are immediately after finding where they're at. But it's to get Lucy. And I think this is a huge character development for the ghoul. and that he's starting to adapt to this golden rule type thing and is starting to be more nice. And he gives them the information, and they let Lucy go. And we see him look at a bunch of barrels of dynamite. And just on the outskirts, when they get outside of the camp, the ghoul reveals something. And during this scene, it also goes between a flashback at Cooper at that veterans meeting. And it's his friend Charlie talking about when he saved Cooper Howard. He dragged him and he asked Cooper. Cooper opened up his thing, and the first thing Cooper said is, "Are the other guys all right?" Showing this huge contrast to who the man Cooper used to be to what he is now. This distorted version of himself just surviving to find his family. And we see a change within the ghoul. And the ghoul blows up part of the Legion camp, making it seem like the other side of the Legion attacked. And so these two sides of the Legion are attacking each other. And he says, "I don't know if I did something good or if I did something stupid." And I think this is the start to a whole new arc of the ghoul. And I'm really excited to see where this goes, because we see that before the war, he was a very caring man. We see just with his family and with the world and how he doesn't want it to end and he wants to stop it, and that he's willing to kill this man, this multimillionaire, just for a chance at that peace. And I like that we're seeing that come back, and that he remembers the words of his friends and what he thinks of him. And we see that this lighter that he gave him, because, he was the one that got saved and he deserved it from Charlie. Charlie got it at the meeting, and he still has that lighter, a reminder of his old life. And I think this is where the ghoul starts to break. And even Lucy is taken back by this. The ghoul says he thinks he may have made a mistake, which isn't very him. We know he's very sure about his actions and such. And even Lucy is taken back by what the ghoul does. And I just cannot wait for the character arc that he's about to go through. So this scene is the scene I talked about earlier, where Paladin Harkness is about to kill these kids and kill Thaddeus, and Maximus comes in and saves the day. He says, "F the Codex, man, stop this. F the Codex," and with the sledgehammer, which so cool. I'm so happy we got to see that. I was really hoping we get to see that in action. And I know we saw one scene of them holding one, and so I was excited. And this is I thought this character was going to be in longer, and he's gone. And then the episode ends, and that's where the end credits roll in to something that I've been theorizing, where we see a nuclear facility, and it pans out. And whose name is on the nuclear facility? Robco. That means our boy Robert had access to nukes this entire time. And so did he help Hank nuke Shady Sands like I was theorizing in yesterday's video? Because that bomb is Robco outfitted, and it also was pristine. And so did Hank get help from House to blow up Shady Sands? Because the NCR kept attacking the strip, trying to take it back for themselves. And so to make sure that they were really put down, he got help from a man who clearly wants his help. And it also makes a little bit more sense to that radio call, like, "Hey, I know you helped me, but after this, you're going to be the one begging for my help this time." And so, who knows? But this is a facility we haven't seen before, at least not one I can remember from the games. And it's on the outer side of Vegas. It pans back. I'll try and get a clip here of it, but it pans back, and I am so excited for this. And that's all. Today's episode was the best one yet. And if there's more like this, I am so excited for what's to come. They hit the points perfectly. I was a little unsure with the last two episodes just because of the pacing and stuff, but Oh, I'm so excited, and we have so much to talk about. Not only the map in the Brotherhood, but with the Legion, with the NCR, with House, with Victor, with this end screen that I know everyone's going to look over, but it is starting to make sense and everything's starting to add up, and I'm so excited for where this goes. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment. If you want to argue about a theory in the comments, please comment down below. I will argue with you guys all day. I love doing it. I'm planning to do a show soon where I get different arguments from the comment sections I've had and I break them down on both sides of each point of view, give you guys a chance to put your stuff out there. I mean, I know I'm only at 104 subs now. Thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a theory video about the stuff we saw today and also looking into more of that map. I'm really excited for the future of this season. Uh, every episode, I'm more and more excited. They're hitting it on the mark. They could still mess it up, but it doesn't look like they are. So, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Happy New Year's. I hope you have a wonderful 2026 to come. And yeah, thank you guys so much for 104 subscribers as of right now. It really means a lot, and all your kind words in the comments and stuff, and even the arguments, even the mean ones too. Shout out to that dude's mom still, and shout out to my favorite Gooner. I really hope we get to see Fisto just for you, buddy. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and you stay safe out there, Wastelanders.